Why am I hearing about this now? Is this something commonly known? Is this something that you guys are keeping hidden from the rest of the world? Like, that blew my mind when I heard that.
The power of our democracy.
My dad had a heart attack that required quadruple bypass. And right after his surgery, I was sitting at his bedside at the Halifax Heart Center. And I was looking at him and I was looking at everyone else in this ward. And I was thinking to myself, the work that I'm doing, is that really going to help cure heart disease, help people like my dad and all these other people in this ward? So what I was doing at the time was working with these genetically modified animal models where these mice lacked certain receptors on the heart cell membranes.
Right. Can we talk about that for a sec? Are these called knockout mice?
Yes, they're called knockout mice.
Tell us how they're genetically modified. Like, there are factories, right, that do this? You order these things.
Essentially, there are companies that, yes, there are companies that will do it for you. If you tell them, I want you to create, send me a mouse with X, Y, and Z genes deleted, knocked out, or, in the whole body, or just knock it out in heart cells or pancreatic cells or liver cells. So you could make these different types of knockout mouse models, or you can replace a mouse gene with a human gene.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get all these, you can do it in your own lab, or you can get someone else to make it for you. I mean, now it's really quick. You can order it online and within a few weeks, they'll be there for you. So yes, I was working with these knockout mouse models of these receptors that play a critical role in the heart. And it was thought at the time that if they were activated in time during a heart attack, then it will reduce the damage following a heart attack. So this is what I was working on. And the whole time I was sitting beside my dad, I was wondering, were these receptors activated in his heart? Did it minimize the damage? All of these things, right? It's natural to think about this. So a few weeks later, when I came back to my lab, I was talking to this experienced career cardiovascular researcher who's worked on these receptors, who's been in this field for 25 plus years. And I ran into him and I said, do you think these receptors were activated in my dad's heart during his heart attack? And he looked at me with this, I'll never forget this look. I don't know how to describe it, but he looked at me and he said, how the hell would I know? We've never looked at this in the human heart. And at that point, something changed within me. For the last 4.5 years, I'd already experienced the futility of animal models and all the problems with animal research. But at that point, something his comment had a profound impact on me.
Yeah.
And I thought,
sure.
I did not go into heart failure research to cure mice of heart failure.
Yeah.
And I walked away from all of this shortly after.
Now, what strikes me, and I'm sure our listeners and viewers, is hard for me to fathom. Hearing this for the first time, 95% of research on rat and mouse models is non-transferable to humans. Why am I hearing about this now? Is this something commonly known? Is this something that you guys are keeping hidden from the rest of the world? Like, that blew my mind when I heard that figure, as I'm sure other people are wondering, how is that even possible?
Well, it's not surprising, and it's possible when you look at the differences between the biology between humans and animals. And, I mean, this fact has been around for a long time, but we have a scientific culture that's ingrained in animal research, a culture that truly defends animal research. So it's not very common. It's not the most common thing for people to be going around spewing out these failure statistics of failure and other things. We always, as a scientific community, we tend to defend animal research. We glorify the limited successes and we completely disregard the colossal failures. That's probably why it's not, on every newspaper. And then even when you think about scientific publications, or even an article on CNN, people often talk about, oh, there's this research from X university that cured this disease, and you have to read halfway down the article to find out that it was done in mice or dogs or monkeys and not humans. So it's the culture that we have in place at the moment.
Wow. And do you have any knowledge of when these models began being used, like historically? I mean, we can look this up and we can fill people in on that, but this has been going on for a long time, correct?
It's been going on for many decades. So the last 100 years, I would say, the last century, we've focused a lot on animals. And some of these animal studies at the very beginning, if you think about the discovery of insulin, for example, right? Banting and Best, they used dogs, but that's what they had available at the time. And they made these history-altering medical discoveries. And most of the textbook knowledge that we have currently came from animal studies. So animals have made monumental contributions to the life sciences. We've used them for the last 100 years, but over the past few decades is when we really ramped up with these technologies to knock out certain diseases. So with genetic modification, and as technology progressed in our culture, in our society in general, we also found quicker and faster ways to manipulate these animals to create all these different disease models. And then on the other hand, when consumer safety came into question, and when you have over 80,000 chemicals on the globe today, we needed a way to find out that they would be safe for humans. So over the last few decades, we've seen a huge increase in animal testing.
And the trend doesn't seem to be waning a great deal. So if I'm a scientist and I want to apply for a huge grant, am I going to have to put somewhere in there that I'm going to be using animal models, or are they going to take me less seriously if I try to work around that?
This is a very interesting question. And in reality, you shouldn't be penalized. You shouldn't be questioned if you don't want to use animal models, but you are. Every major funding agency, the National Institutes of Health, Canadian Institutes of Health Research, and other such federal funding agencies in different countries, and scientific journals, they almost always ask you, where is the animal data? And God forbid if you had data from humans that happen to contradict what you've already seen in animals, they question the human data, not the animal data. That is the state of affairs in modern day biomedical research. So it is very difficult. I personally have received comments saying you need to validate your 3D bioprinted human tissue model using a mouse model. And this is very common among colleagues in my field, that we're constantly fighting against this. No, I don't want to give you animal models. For one thing, we have a lot of animal data that we've accrued over the last few decades that we could technically compare against them. We don't need to do new animal studies for many of these things. But it's a question that always comes up. It's almost like science is incomplete without animals.